question. Um, what's your name? Balat. Uh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. So the difference between OL and UL is the number, right? Visually, you see that you see the number, and the other one is a bullet point. But again, I mentioned in the previous slides that these things are not important. This is the default behavior for the browser to render these when it encounters these tags, right? But you can always override this. So what I'm saying is that just because you use OL does not mean that your list item will need to have a number. It could be something else. Like when graphic designers, they style the page, they might use something else. Like they might use an image, or they might have some other things that are not numbers. So to answer you the difference between UL and OL, don't think of it as visual difference, but think of it as semantic difference. You're trying to say that, hey, for my hobbies, I don't care about the order. It's just unordered list. But for OL, the order actually matters. I'm trying to convey that, hey, these items, the order matters. And how it is shown on the web browser actually depends on how you style it, okay? So I hope that is clear, yeah. So DL, DT, DD, what does it stand for? DL stands for definition list, DT stands for definition term, and DD, definition, maybe, I don't know. How do you use it? Let's focus on that part. So I'm going to start off with how I use it. So you usually use DL, DT, DD for defining terms when you want to define something. But some people also use it, like Google, they will use it for when you have the contact information on your about page. You can use the DD for that. So how does it look in HTML? This is what it looks like in the browser. Whoa, wrong page. So you see, DL, start off the definition list. I have a list of definitions I want to define. And then you have DT for the definition term. So I'm trying to define my phone number. And then the definition, or whatever it's called, that is the definition of my phone number. And then same thing with email address, right? You have the email address as the definition term, and then you have the definition, which is my email. So essentially, DD describes what DT wants to talk about, yeah? All right, moving on. Shoot, 1 more hour. Block quote. So block quote is the tag that you would use for describing quotes. When you have quotes that you want to display on the web page, you would use block quote. Someone might ask, like, why don't you just use P, the P tag, right? The paragraph tag. The answer to that is, again, going back to the semantic of the web. You're trying to use the right tag for the right job. So there were a few students that came to ask me about tags and semantic. I want to really emphasize the point here is that, you see, I have 2 quotes that I'm trying to show on the page, right? I could have easily used the P tags for that, but instead I chose to use the block quote tag because it captures the semantic, the meaning of the page. Right, if you look at line, let's see, 45, 46, I could have just used P tag over there, but instead I chose to use block quote because it captures, it tells the computer that reads this document that, hey, what follows within this block quote is actually a quote. Okay, so remember that. If anything, just remember, use the right tag for the right job. By the way, I just wanted to share these two quotes with you. I found that they're quite good. Um, Many of you in the future might experience some disappointments in life, and that is actually very normal, right? We all have to encounter disappointments, but just remember that sometimes not getting what you want is a stroke of luck. So just because like you might not get what you want sometimes, it doesn't mean that it's bad luck. It might be the beginning of something really good in the future. Okay, so remember that it is something that I always remember. You know, today's disappointment might be hope or success in the future. Okay. Does anyone know who said that quote? I didn't make it. I'm not the owner, by the way. It's actually Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama. I don't know what Thai people call it, but yeah, it's Dalai Lama, the Tibetan head of state. The second quote, this is more for just social cause, I guess. There is enough for everybody's needs, but not enough for anyone's greed. You guys understand the meaning behind that? Anyone knows who was the owner of this quote? Yeah, Gandhi. Yep, Mahatma Gandhi. He was the one that said that. And I think it's true, you know, in terms of greed, I don't think there's a limit to like how much we want. But I really believe in sustainable economy. Helping each other out is probably the way that we can survive the 21st and the 22nd century. So one of my hobbies that I didn't list is I like to read quotes. I like to read quotes that are really meaningful. I don't collect them, but I just like to read them and share them with other people. I hope that you found them meaningful as well. Moving on. Just in case it was not clear, the way you use block quote is just like a p tag. So you start off the block quote like that, and then you just end it with a ending block quote. That's all. All right. Next one is the A tag. The A tag. So let me show you what it looks like. So the A tag is, it stands for anchor tag. But the way that I like to remember it is just when you want to include like a link on your website, you would use an anchor tag. So here I have two examples of my favorite websites, or the websites that I go to a lot or often. One is NBA.com. It's the professional basketball league in the US, and another one is Facebook. So I'm just going to click on them just to show you not the website, but the difference in the behavior. So I click on one, it launches a new browser, a new window, and then I click on the other one. It did not launch a new browser. So what is the difference? Hey, someone tried to add me. Yeah. Yes?
Why one of them create a new page?
Yeah. So the reason why is because of the difference is the target attribute. Oh, so when you have, so this is something new, right? When we have, so previously, when we looked at like a bunch of tags, we just had the starting tag, and then we specify what tag we want, and then we just close it, right? But here's something new, right? A tag can actually have attributes. In this case, we have an anchor tag, but we have two attributes. For the first one, we have href, which is basically the link that you want to go to when someone clicks on it. And then you have the target. And this basically tells the browser, hey, when someone clicks on this, I want it to launch a new window. So this is how you specify the difference in the behavior, because when I clicked on this one, where the heck did it go? When I clicked on Facebook, it just stayed on the same page. So there are two things. So there are two things that you should remember here. One is that a tag can have attributes. In this case, the anchor tag can have two attributes, for example. One is href to specify what link you want to go to, and then second one is target for opening a new window. If you don't have the target attribute defined, like the one on Facebook, then the browser will do something by default. In this case, it just opens that in the same window. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So now we've covered the anchor tag. The next thing we want to cover is how would you add an image to your website, your web page. So Facebook would be very boring, right, if you didn't have any images to your web page, like if you couldn't add any images to your web page. So the way that you would add an image to your website or your web page would be to use the image tag, img. So I'm going to show you an example of how I use the image tag. So again, I start off with the heading, my photo, with h3 tag. And then on line 53, I specify what the source of my image is by using the attribute src. And then ALT, I think it stands for alternate. So this is the case when, just in case the image didn't show up, that's the alternate. And also, like, I think that if I remember correctly, the ALT is useful for disabled people, people that cannot see. I mean, there are blind people out there that cannot see pictures. They cannot see, right? They don't have vision. The alternate attribute allows them to see the image. So just remember that you would use that attribute for to allow your website to be accessible by disabled people. Okay. I don't know where I. So that's an image. That's an image that I prepared. Since we're on the topic of Pac-Man, I might as well just tell you why I am obsessed, or not obsessed, but I included this image. My name, Pac. When my mother was pregnant, which was about maybe 30 years ago, she liked to play or loved to play Pac-Man. So this is why she named me Pac, P-A-C, for Pac-Man. I just wanted to share that with you.
You have a brother, right?
Yeah.
His name?
No. No, his name is Pet. Yeah. Pac-Man. Oh, and also, like, let me tell you. So I moved to the U.S. when I was I moved to the US when I was 14, okay? And I just remember, so back then, I was not so fluent in English, and my American friends would ask me like, so what's your name? I would just tell them, Pac, that's my nickname. And then they would ask me like, why is your nickname Pac? Do you eat a lot like Pac-Man? I was confused, like, what do you mean? I mean, that's just my nickname. I later found out that when the term nickname, at least to my understanding, to Americans, you have a nickname because it describes something about you. It's not just like your name, you see. So like, you could have a nickname, I don't know, something. Okay, let's say Pac-Man. Maybe your nickname is like Pac because like, I don't know, you eat a lot. So like when I explain to someone my name, my ชื่อเล่น, I usually tell the Americans that, oh, my second name or my informal name is Pac. This is what my family uses to call me. So I just wanted to share that with you, to not use nicknames so carelessly because they might misunderstand. Okay. So we covered like probably what, 5% of all the tags that are available for HTML. I mean, there's like a gazillion of tags that are out there for HTML. We just cover like really basic stuff. One of the probably the most hyped tag right now for HTML is probably the video tag. So in modern browsers, you can actually specify videos within your page. So far we've dealt with images and text, right? But there's nothing to prevent you from actually including like a video in your web browser, right? I mean, if you could include image, why not video? Why not audio? So those are for the later stuff that you have to study on your own. But the key thing to take away is that the stuff that we've been covering today is really little. There's like a lot more that you can play with and find out more about. So the next thing I want to cover is styling. We're now getting into the domain of CSS. Okay, so those three attributes, I think, is pretty self-explanatory in terms of what they do. First one is basically specifying the font is large, specifying the color of the text is red, background is blue. So let's see how we use them in our HTML document. So hold on. So I just wanted to show off the power of Vim again, since I use Vim a lot. In normal text editor, how do you search a text? What's the key combination? Control F, right? In Vim, you just press like this /, and you just type. And then the one really cool thing is this. It's like, let's say I'm searching for red. Then I simply just press N to move on to the next, and then Shift N to go backward. So it's pretty cool. Like the point I'm trying to get at is that with some powerful text editor, you can really navigate your source code a lot faster than if you use some other text editor that are not so well supported. Anyway, so so if you remember from the slide, I specified like large font, red, and then I think background. Yeah, background blue. So this is what it looks like, and these three lines here, and how it looks, or how it looks in the code, is like that. So essentially, you just have p tags, right? I just have 3 lines of text, and to apply style to the p tags, you would use the attribute called style, right? And then the stuff within there is what we call CSS syntax. you would specify the attribute followed by a colon. And then you then specify what value you want. So I guess everyone can guess that for line 56, this font is going to be a little bit large. This one, the font color will be red, and this one, the background will be cyan. So this is a good way to, this is one way you could specify or put styling to your document. And this is, again, I already showed this, but this is what it looks like. You can see that the text font, the text size is different. This line versus this line, right? But what happens? What happens when you start putting a bunch of stuff, like a bunch of styling into your HTML document? Does any one of you, when you work on your Java project, get a sense that, like, once you've started working on it for a while, you start to cringe, or you start to like feel uneasy when you look at your code because it looks really messy, and you don't like, it's like 2 a.m. in the morning and your code is still not working and it's due within like maybe an hour. I'm sure that you had that experience before, right? I had plenty of those experiences when I was taking computer classes during an undergrad. The point that I'm trying to get at is, you see, once you become careless, right, taking the easy route and just apply a bunch of styling to your tags, you can end up with code that looks like this, right, where you have your content mixed with your style, right? So software developers, we are very easily confused, right? So a bunch of people that started off or pioneered the web development, they started to find a way how we can separate the content and the presentation more clearly or more cleanly. So they developed a mechanism to allow you to separate the content from the presentation. So given our example, how do we do that? How do we separate the presentation from the content in the text file? So this is one way that you could do it. Oh man. Essentially, one way that you could do it is instead of like writing style like this, you could simply just have a section that is dedicated for CSS, and then you target specific elements. Like, for example, here, I'm saying that, hey, within the body of the document, the HTML document, I want to set the font family to be sans serif, and then set the margin left to be 50px. So instead of like putting these styles onto the body, right, mixing it with HTML, I separate them out into like different sections. Actually, probably the better example would be this one. Like here, right? Remember this example where we have just the hello world, and we have the body or the background as cyan, like light blue color? You see how like I could have just put this background up here, right? But instead, I chose to separate them. One section that is dedicated for just styling, and then the other section that is just for content. So this is what we mean by separation of concerns, right? Just like in Java, right? You have a bunch of classes to separate your concerns or separate your code. This is the same thing. It might not be the same technique, but it is the same concept.
Sorry, what the line 12 stands for?
Oh, style. So if you remember, like we had if you remember, we had something like that in the previous slide, right, we can specify the style of the tag. This is HTML tag that allows you to specify the style of the page. So when you want to have like CSS styling, you would just use this syntax, like style. The media screen, you don't have to worry about it for now. The type is CSS. So remember, presentation is CSS. So using this tag, you can put all of your CSS in there. So that's what it's used for.
What if we have two bodies? Can we have two bodies?
You can have anything because it's just text, right? But a valid HTML, you would just have one body. Yeah. So what does CSS stand for? That's one of them, right? I mean, CSS is Counter-Strike source. I was an avid CSS or CS gamer when I was younger, like when I was 18, 19. Played a lot. I wasn't good though, but I really liked it. Huh? No. Huh?
My friend asked the question that if you want to change just the text one by one, be like a rainbow color, can you do it in CSS?
Yeah, you can, but it's going to be a lot of work. I mean, wait, when you say, so you mean like hello world? Like you want to...
H to be red, E to be blue?
Yeah, you can. But you know, if you really want to do that, maybe you just whip up Photoshop and then just make it rainbow. Just do it in Photoshop. No, you can. It's just, I mean, probably a web designer probably knows a better way. But like, as far as I can tell right now, I would have to use what we call like ID or class, the concept of class and ID for each of these character, and then apply UCSS to target specific character to change the color. But I'm going to be covering the class and ID, the concept of class and ID in the later slides. But yes, it can be done. Just really painful though. Again, just use Photoshop, easier. Yeah, since we're on the topic of presentation, my expertise is actually in like the web development side of things and not so much of a graphic designer. So, you know, I know more about like how to do the back-end stuff, like developing the application rather than styling it, like making it look nice. So CSS is not my cup of tea. Anyway, so so what is CSS? It's definitely not kind of style. Obviously, you use it for styling, right? Cascading is because you can actually you can actually have a bunch of cascading styles to your CSS to override like the existing one. You guys don't have to know about that for now. There's cascading to CSS, but I just wanted to mention that. I mean, there's a reason why they call it cascading. And again, CSS is mainly for presentation. Oh man, ran out of water. So here's another example of CSS. You can have font. You can define like what font you want to use. The text decoration, I'll cover what that means, and then the margin left. So let's see how it's actually applied in real life. Let's see where it's at.